Welcome back. Episode 14. We are knocking these things out of the park week by week. I say every time that I have someone that I've never met before that these are my favorite types of episodes. And I keep repeating myself because they are my favorite type of favorite type of episodes. You have to excuse me. I just woke up. It's a Sunday. This is someone that I met on Instagram. We've all seen, phish meme pages and things like that. But this page, I wouldn't necessarily call them memes. It's more data driven, you could say. Episode 14, our guest is Jefe, the creator of You Enjoy My Data. What's up, man? How are you?
How's it going, Clay?
It's good. So we've talked for maybe 2 minutes before we started recording. Tell me who you are, where you're from, how we came to see each other and find each other on the internet, how you came up with You Enjoy My Data. Just introduce yourself, man. Tell me all about you.
Oh my gosh. Uh,
Where to start?
yeah, where to start? Well, geez, my name's Jefe. I live in Tucson, Arizona. It's my hometown. Um,
What's the weather
moved.
like there right now?
Oh my God, it's actually kind of crazy this time of year. The temperature swings are nutty. Like it gets down to
Oh,
40 at night, and it was 95 degrees yesterday.
gotcha.
So. Um,
That desert life.
Yeah, that desert life. So it's really nice. I mean, it's really nice at night. Sleep with the windows open and
Oh,
then
sure, I bet.
close it up during the day and try and keep
Super
all the
fast.
cold in.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so it's a Sunday for me too. I'm kind of cooked. I'm a cyclist.
Oh,
So I
okay.
went on a ride yesterday and
Hence your shirt there.
I'm a little bit out of shape. So and there was a headwind, so it worked me
Oh.
worked me pretty hard. My taint isn't all that pleased with me right now. I'll just say that. But
Hey, at least you
yeah,
got it in, man. At least you got it
yeah,
in.
that's right. And I'm actually um, needing to get my butt off the couch because I'm going to Madison Square Garden, and
Oh, good for you, man.
I'm going a couple days early, and I'm taking a bike, and
Hold on. You're just taking your bike with you or you're
yeah,
biking there?
no, not bike. I'm not riding my bike to New York,
Dude,
but
I was about to say you need to leave like right now.
yeah. No, I'm going to take a bike. I love visiting places with a bicycle. It's a whole different trip. You get to experience a city in such a different way.
Oh yeah, I'm
And so
sure.
I'm going to be there solo for a couple days before my crew shows up. And so I'm planning on doing like a long ride up the Hudson. And I've never cycled around New York City before, so I'm super psyched.
That'll be cool.
Um, and it's generally flat, but I'm gonna do 100-mile ride when I'm there.
So that's a good way to jump off. So whenever you do these rides, because I know riding and running are completely different. Like you can rack up way more miles. So on a typical ride for you, um, how many miles are you hitting? How long are you riding for? Because you said 100 miles, and that sounds, as someone that's not a cyclist, sounds like a fucking lot.
It is a lot, and
Okay,
it is a lot even for you know experienced cyclists.
sure.
Um, but typically, like a 20-mile ride, kind of during the week, it takes about an hour and 15 minutes. So
Okay,
that's kind of like a maintenance thing. Longer rides, I'd say maybe for your average person are 60, 70 miles. Um, they call that a grand fondo. Um,
oh, okay,
but I typically around 50 miles is kind of like a happy place for me.
okay.
Um, and
So you're gonna be
so,
doubling that.
so I'm going to be doubling that. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna have to get my butt in gear a little bit just to and take a break too. I'm not like what I seem to like. I go hard. I don't know.
Sure.
I'm like either a full sloth or I am like I go ham.
There's no
And I'd
gray
say
area.
I think that's kind of how I am in life in general. So yeah, so anyway, I'm psyched. That's why I'm a little bit cooked today.
Oh,
And
sure.
so but I'm a morning person too, so I'm psyched that you want to do this in the morning.
Oh my
So
God, dude, I'm gonna make you sound even better because it's so I'm on East Coast time, so it's
mhm.
noon here, and I woke up literally 15 minutes ago and was like, oh my God.
Damn.
I was like, okay, hold on. I gotta like wash my face. I gotta
Oh my
like make the
God.
coffee. So hey man, kudos to you. You've already been up and you're on. I don't know. Is Arizona West Coast time or is that Mountain time? Or do they
We're
do
on
Arizona? You do your own time, right?
We do not switch. We're the only state other than Hawaii that doesn't switch time.
So what
So
time is it there right now?
it's 9 a.m.
Oh my God, dude. I'm so sorry, but you said you're a
Oh
morning
no,
person.
no. Yeah, I wake up at like 5:30.
God bless you. All
Yeah.
right. Well, good for you, man. You got to get those rides in. You're making me feel like a piece of trash though, but that's okay.
Well, jeez.
Let's switch gears. I want to hear about how you came to create You Enjoy My Data. So, if you're listening right now and you don't follow You Enjoy My Data on Instagram and you like what do you call them, infographics or just
I don't
what would you
know, graphs and stuff.
graphs? Yeah, it's super cool, but and it's all fish related. Follow you. Are there underscores? Go ahead and
Yeah,
say the handle real quick.
yeah. You enjoy my data with underscores in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
it's I don't know. I'm gonna call it art because it feels like art to me in like a sense of like you can
I
make
like
art be
that.
whatever you want. I
I'm
mean,
glad to hear that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's very visually pleasing. So how did you have you always been like a quote unquote data nerd or how did you come up with like this page idea?
I'm definitely not a data nerd. I mean, I'm definitely a little bit OCD or
Sure.
somewhere on the spectrum. But I the field I work in, I'm a optician, so I grind and polish glass
Oh,
for
cool.
telescopes. And
Wow.
there are periods in that process, and it takes a really, really long time. There are stretches where it's just really boring,
Okay,
and
I can see that.
I'm just kind of a babysitter. So, and I've needed to keep these logbooks over the years, um, with different adjustments I've made to machines or just whatever,
Sure.
little drawings in my logbook, and um, this is such uh, a dark art, if you will, polishing of glass to like the tightest precision specs
Sure.
that keeping logbooks and being able to go back and say, what did we do when it was like this? Oh, we made this adjustment or that adjustment or whatever. So I've had to keep these really legible logbooks over the years. And then I don't know, a couple of years ago on Instagram, I found this guy. His name is Semi Rad, and he's a
Semi-rad.
runner. He's
Okay.
an outdoor guy. He's a runner. Um, kind of, I felt like he was kind of in the same clique as me, as far as he's like a mountain town guy, and um,
Similar
he
interest.
does he does these hand drawn graphs and stuff, and I realized that his drawings looked a lot like my logbooks. And then I also noticed that his humor was kind of similar to mine. And that was years ago. And then it just hit me a couple months ago at work when I was just like listening to Phish and making connections in my head. I was like, I was like, I I drew something. I can't even remember what it was, and I was like, I sent it to a couple friends. I was like, "What is this funny?" You know? They were like, "Oh my God, we this is what we need in the middle of pandemic and meme pages, and there's so much, there meme pages can be kind of divisive sometimes,
And redundant.
redundant.
Yeah.
I mean, we all love them, right?
Right.
We consume them voraciously, but
Right.
they were like, "This is so different. You should start a page," So I did, and I was like, basically, there is an endless deep well of material,
Yeah.
whether it's real actual data
Uh-huh.
or funny jokes or personal stuff. You can joke about fans,
Yeah.
you name it. It's just endless. And so it became kind of a little outlet for me at work when I was bored.
Sure.
And at home too, when I'm bored or whatever, or when an idea comes to my head.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised actually that it took off because
Oh
it's like
yeah.
way more popular than my personal Instagram page, that's
Sure.
for sure.
It's funny how
Um,
that works. Like, same goes for like my personal page and then the page that I've made for the podcast, you know.
uh-huh.
And it's kind of like it's kind of like you're glad that it's like getting exposure, but then you're also, or at least I'm kind of like, wait, what about my page?
Right.
Like, but dude, I love your, I'm gonna call it work and your art. Like, I love it. It's so because you do it so neatly, and it's like you just mentioned, like it's geared towards something that we're all fascinated with, and
Yeah.
it's kudos to you, man, because it's
Thank you.
you
Thank you
tapped
for
into,
saying that.
yeah, you tapped into a different lane. You know, you're not just like
Yeah.
copying paste because, and no shade to any of the phish meme pages. I'm not trying to diss them by saying this, but you've created something new and fresh, and it's not just copy paste.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for saying that. And it is
you're
weird
welcome.
that I like get that I fall into that same space as meme pages,
Sure, yeah.
people say you're my favorite meme page, and I'm like, I'm not a meme page, but
This is data, damn it.
whatever. That's that's a compliment at some
Yeah,
level
yeah,
as
for sure,
well. So
for sure. But yeah, kudos to you. I love it.
thank you.
Let's kind of switch gears and start talking about fish. When and where, how did you first hear about fish? What was that first moment that got you where you were like, "Oh, this is different and I'm hooked."
Oh man, I actually my kind of origin story. Um, I mean, I think my whole relationship with fish, I don't, I would never say it's unique or interesting or anything like that, but because there are so many colors in the spectrum with people and their relationship with fish, and
Right.
but I was a deadhead in the late '80s, and um, I saw a lot of shows. I toured and stuff, and um, the scene started to change a little bit,
Sure.
a lot bit, and I was in Tucson. Um, I think it was 1990 or something, and uh, there were Gulf War protests going on. This like makes me I feel so old saying this, but like I met my girlfriend at an anti-war protest,
No, that's cool.
and on the U of A campus here in Tucson, and she was from Vermont, and she was this awesome hippie woman, like a folkie named Mary. Her name was Mary, and she was from Burlington, Vermont. And so, you know, we got together and she turned me on to fish. I'd never heard fish. Maybe I'd heard of them at that point. I can't really remember. Um, Actually, I do remember, and I think I may have heard them a little bit. But
Here and there.
here, so she turned me on to Phish. And so my earliest memories of Phish are like these tapes from 89 and 90 and Dancing with Mary. She loved, like, I can still see her dancing, like, kind of like hard to Mike's song and
Just like
stuff, you
into it.
know?
I
Oh,
could
we used to, we used to watch the sunset on her roof and dance to Phish. And funny enough, I drive by or ride my bike by her rental where she lived back then. And I don't, it's, I don't know if everyone has this experience, but for me, certain, uh, the connection between music and memories
yeah.
for me can be so like overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
And like when I hear Slave to the Traffic Light,
That's the one.
in my head, I see her house, you know?
Yeah.
And when I drive by her house, I hear Slave to the Traffic Light, you know? The first times I heard these songs. And so anyway, Mary turned me on to Phish. She gave me my first Phish shirt. She had boxes of tapes. She had, um, think about this now, like a box of flyers off the street, Pollock flyers from the streets of Burlington. Phish was her local band. It was just her
Yeah.
local bar band. And so I went to visit her one summer, the next summer. And um, I was like, God, I hope I can see Phish while I'm here because I fell in love with them immediately.
And what year roughly is this?
1990, I
Okay.
think.
So right at the
Um,
beginning.
right at the beginning and through bootlegs and then through Junta. But so I went to go visit her in Vermont and uh, they weren't playing. This is right around the Amy's Farm
Sure.
time,
That
and I
era.
just missed that.
Oh,
Um, and it's funny, we were stoners, we were like 20 years old or whatever,
wait, that doesn't sound right.
and uh, and there was a time, and it's hard to believe now with dispensaries and indoor uh, weed and stuff, that
Right.
it used to go dry. There used to be times where you could not find pot.
That sucks.
And so we were in Burlington, staying at her mom's house in this little old farmhouse, and there was no weed. And we were going to have to drive to another city to get some weed. So we drove down to Stowe, Vermont, past the Ben and Jerry's
Oh, cool.
place. And like, this is, bucket list kind of stuff, if you will, for me. Like, I went over my first covered bridge.
Oh,
I was
okay.
like, I'm not from New England. I'm from the desert. This is bitching. And so we drive to this house out in the woods in Stowe, and who's riding up on a bicycle like as we're pulling up to this house but John Fishman. And I'm
No
like,
shit. Really?
what the, wow. And then we go inside and we're like procuring the herb and stuff and sitting on the couch and I'm having this conversation with this dude named Chris. He's nice. And
Oh, damn,
I
you're
was,
putting his name out there like that?
and,
I guess it's been 30 years. So
and, uh, and I was like, man, I hope I can see Phish while I'm here. He said, well, we're actually in the studio. They were recording Picture and Nectar at the time. And I'm like, fuck. So I won't get to see you guys. I fell in love with you. I said, I live in Arizona. He said, we're actually going to be out there in a month or two. So this would be 91 at this point.
okay.
We're going to be out there. I said, where? He said, God, we're playing this little town called Prescott. And I'm like, my head exploded. I'm like, that's where I live. Prescott is this tiny little, um, shit kicker retiree cowboy town. The
And they just have
mountains, a remote little town in Arizona, but there's a college there, a
okay.
liberal arts college.
And they just have like a little venue or something.
No, I mean, I was like, what?
Where are you playing?
Where are you playing in Prescott? You know.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, yeah, so I did. I met a guy named Chris. And that
The
worked
weed
with the
man.
band. And I don't know if he was the actual weed man. If he was, and if he ever sees this, thanks, CK5. Um, it was it it helped a lot. Anyway, um, so I beat Phish. I luckily they almost beat me home. I ended up. The rest of my East Coast trip was classic. I like hitchhiked down to New York
Okay.
and with my dog and my skateboard and my dreadlocks. Classic shit. I worked on Long Island for a couple months to make
Okay.
enough money to fly home, and got home, got up to Prescott, and so I got to see Phish for the first time, finally, after meeting them in in Vermont and stuff. Just really, I was so excited. So a lot of people who I think who saw Phish in the early days or whenever, a lot of people didn't know, hadn't heard them,
It was just
or
like a
maybe
happenstance type
yeah, or
thing
maybe had heard them a little bit, or you got to go see this band or whatever. I was already, I
in
loved them. Um, there wasn't that much material out there. I think there was Lawn Boy
a
and
couple of
Junta,
albums.
and that's
Yeah.
it. And then this box of bootlegs that Mary had. Um,
And so, Rick, real quick. So, when was the date of your first show? Do you remember that?
yeah, it's 10/24/91.
Okay. 10/24/91.
Yeah.
I
Um,
want to go back and listen to that.
it's a it's crazy. There's a really good soundboard of it actually
Okay.
on
Cool.
re-listen.
Yeah, I love that.
Um, it's got some it's got some smoking stuff in there for sure. It's got some I mean, it's classic Phish,
Early Phish.
there's
Yeah.
there's vacuums, there's barbershop stuff,
Yeah.
a machine gun, there's a Weekapaw that's awesome. Um, there's some interesting stuff. There's a slave in that show that happens to be the last slave for 2 years. They put it on ice for some
Oh.
reason. And I've always wondered, and that like nitpicker researcher guy in me has always wondered. And the next one is at the Cincinnati Zoo or something in 93. And
Oh.
there's no like noticeable changes. Like they didn't workshop it and change it.
Yeah.
Um, but
Shelved it.
they just shelved it for a couple of years, and I've always wondered why.
Yeah.
But it's on the jam chart on .net and stuff, and it
Huh?
says, like this, the last slave for 2 years. It hints at the powerful song that it'll become one day, and it does. It's pretty sick. It's distilled down to 7 minutes instead of like the 15-minute slaves that we're
Sure.
used to hearing.
Yeah.
So anyway, this venue wasn't a venue. It was this right in downtown Prescott, which is like an old west town. There's an old hotel called the Cafe Saint or the St. Michael's Hotel, and there was a little cafe there. And then there was this ballroom, and the ballroom was just like a dinner hall kind of for the old hotel, and beautiful ceilings and wooden floors and stuff. And I think it costs about $3 or something this show. I can't
That's awesome.
remember. It was put on by Prescott College, by the college, which was this a very small liberal arts for the outdoors. So you could get a degree in like outdoor education there.
Huh.
You could go through school taking kayaking and rock climbing
Oh,
classes,
that's cool.
as well as like small group dynamics and stuff like that. They didn't have
Sure.
their motto was the Southwest is our classroom. They didn't really even have a campus. There was mostly field courses. So somebody at this school was from the Northeast, or probably from Burlington, and knew the band and used some student body money to get the band to come play in Prescott.
That's
And
awesome.
and so it was really like it was I was so psyched to finally see this band live, and it just did not disappoint. No stage, like just a little riser
Sure.
right there. I wanted, I couldn't wait to see Trey and this massive red hair, and he had a shaved head. I was like,
What?
whoa,
His head was
what's
shaved?
what's going on? I mean, like a full, not baked, but crew
Yeah.
cut. Um, but hippies did that a lot back in the day. Like, I'm going through changes,
Just starting
and you
over.
got, yeah. So maybe that's what was going on. I don't know.
It's funny. I did that recently. Well, I guess at this point it's been about a couple of years. I'm the guy that has like the receding hairline right here, which is why I always wear the hat.
Uh-huh.
And for a while, I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna rock a mohawk, like just where the
Oh,
peaks
nice.
go, take all the sides off, and just rock the mohawk. And I did that for a while, and then I did like the kind of like I'm going through changes moment. And I just like shaved my head, and I was like
Cool.
not like super bummed out about it. Like I was looking at myself with a bald head, and I'd be like, I can do this. So I rocked that for like a year, and then now I'm growing my hair back out for whatever reason. But a little side tangent
Nice.
on the haircut. I
Nice.
can't imagine what Trey looked like with like a
Yeah, it
short.
was definitely weird. Like the vibe was kind of different.
Yeah.
So one kind of noteworthy thing from the show was, um, so they said that they were really psyched to be there because it was very similar to Goddard College where they
Oh,
were
sure.
from. This small kind of hippie school. And so there was a writing teacher, adjunct faculty or something at the school, and her name was Fern. And
Okay.
Fern was this classic like round, like Jewish earth mama, I
Okay.
would call her, like she just had this, and she just exuded this sexual kind of thing. Amazing woman. And so the story goes is that there was going to be a party, a dinner or something before the show. And so Fern cooked them this aphrodisiac specific meal, right? Whatever, there's probably like a shitload of garlic or whatever, but
Spinach.
yeah, I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah.
I
What
don't
are?
know anything about aphrodisiac
Yeah, me
foods,
either.
but regardless, I guess they had a great time. And Fern was known for her erotic poetry.
Okay.
And so they invited Fern up on stage to read erotic poetry. And when I
No.
mean erotic poetry, it was sometimes very explicit. Sometimes it was just allusions to stuff, like talking about vegetables and stuff, like just
Eggplants.
yeah, just but I will never ever forget watching Trey like oh my God. I mean, I was so close to
You could
him.
see it
And
on his face.
she was talking about, and I can't remember if it was overt or if it was just like metaphorical, but she was talking about oral sex and
Uh-huh.
eruptions and explosions. And it got so intense. It was like kind of like a tension and release jam, if you will. And I just remember Trey's eyes were like, oh my God. So he
And
was,
is this on the recording? So like if you go to listen to the show, this
no,
is part of it?
yeah,
Oh,
unfortunately, it's not.
okay,
And I
gotcha.
really wish it were. Fern, I heard she passed away not that long ago. So
Oh no.
that would have been an amazing document for her.
Oh,
But
sure.
I also heard that they kept in touch and they invited her anytime she wanted. Years later,
That's cool.
anytime you want to come up and read poetry at our shows, it's on.
That's cool.
That's a beautiful thing, you
That
know?
is, yeah.
So there was intimacy, um, and it's a trip to think that just 4 or 5 years later, they the same band that I saw in this little hotel was bringing 70,000 people to like the middle of nowhere for their own festival. We
Isn't
didn't.
that wild?
It is. And I mean, if you had walked in or walked on the street and heard the show going on, you would definitely be like, what the fuck is going on in there? This band is, something's going on in there, you know?
Sure.
Um, but we didn't think, I never thought that was going to happen, you know?
Right.
Phish was just a bitchin' band.
I don't even think they thought that was gonna happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so there's a kind of a purity, um, that's a really beautiful thing. And yeah, I mean, I listened to my first show and and early Phish because that's what Phish sounds like to me, you
Sure.
know. Um, just yeah. So anyway, that's my origin story.
No, no, I love it. And I'm always so like, even with the last episode, Peter Connors, he had a similar story, like starting out, seeing the band super early, like when they're doing these college gigs and things like that, and having the band, be what it is now, and even having people from my generation and even younger, we've only known it from them being this like big, massive thing. And I love hearing the stories like from, and like your perspective from like the early days, because I'm so in love with the band, just like everyone else. And it's like talking to you and hearing your stories and other people that were there from like day one or ground zero. It just like, I feel like I get to live that through you guys and your stories. And it's so cool. And I'm like, there's like a jealousy type thing there. I'm like, man, I wish I could have been there. But in 91, I was one. You
Right.
know? So,
Classic.
yeah, but it's really cool, man. And knowing that you're I like saying like OG, like you're an OG to like the Phish like community. Like over the years, have you came to find like a favorite year of Phish that you have? Because like in the early like 1.0 days, it seemed like each year had like it was so much different than the last year. So do you have like a favorite year of Phish that sticks out to you, or what's your kind of like listening palette looking like?
Gosh. Well, I'll have to start with my second origin story.
Okay, go for it.
Because, um, like I said, Phish was just a band. I kind of fallen off. I'd kind of fallen off traveling for live music. Um,
Okay,
I saw the Grateful Dead. I mean, I was kind of over it, but I'd see them once a year or twice a year in Vegas or something like that. And um, living in a remote town in Arizona and being a broke kid, rock
sure,
climber, I my focus was no longer on traveling for music.
sure.
And so um, I saw Phish a handful of times
When they were in the area.
through, yeah, and through like 93. Um, and then my focus was solely on rock climbing. I was just a, now they call it van life. Back then we were just homeless, but I um I was just
Hashtag van life, the
I
remarketing. I love it.
so yeah, hashtag van life. So so I didn't I and my musical taste changed as well. I became like monogamous almost to reggae music, and
Oh, or do you still
I
have the
just
dreads at this point?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so this is
And
like an
so
identity type thing.
well, I mean, again, I think it's about like um going all in on things,
Sure. Yeah.
has been maybe a hallmark of my life. So anyway, yeah, living in my van, just being a climber. I didn't see fish. Didn't and honestly, I remember when Hoist came out,
Okay.
and I remember the sentiment of my friends that liked fish, or my friends from Vermont, and we were like, "It's over, man.
Oh,
There's they sold out. This sucks."
oh,
I personally hated Hoist when it came out. I just like the stop, 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 stop in Downward Disease. I was like, oh, this is cringy. And they had a music video, and I was like, it's over. It was so different than Rift, and I loved Rift.
uh-huh.
Rift was super fishy to me, and
I think that's my
um,
favorite album too.
Rift,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, I didn't see fish. I fell out of live music in general, and I didn't see fish, and for a long ass time. Um, and this memory actually just came back to me not that long ago because I found a ticket stub. But I did see fish later in the '90s, and I had totally blocked it out. I worked with this kid at a coffee shop. I lived in Southern California at this point. I was a surfer. Now, I moved because all I wanted to do was, when you grow up in Arizona, you dream of living by the beach.
I bet.
During the
Yeah.
summer, you go visit the beach, and that's all you want. So I knew someday I would live by the beach, and I did. I worked with this kid, and one day he shows up wearing a fish shirt, but it was like uh, I don't know what to call it, but it was like I think it was the NBC Peacock logo or
Oh,
something,
yeah,
and it
okay.
said Chrome on it,
Okay.
and or something like that. I can't remember. It was one of those like logo,
Just like a reference shirt, like if you know type thing.
and that's right, like the
Yeah.
Mountain Dew Morning Dew
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I go, is that a fish shirt? He goes, yeah, man. He was all into fish. And and I told him that I had seen fish and didn't know what they were up to or anything. So he encouraged me to go see a show. And I had totally forgotten about this because I was not listening to fish at the time. I think I was listening to mostly like Social Distortion and
And
shit.
like Steel Pulse.
No, like I like rockabilly
Oh, okay,
music.
you were out of
And
the reggae at this point.
I mean, I've never let go of the music I love
Mhm.
completely, but I was like, I'll go see Fish. They're playing at Irvine Meadows, so I went, and
And
I
what year is this?
was 99, I
Okay,
think.
gotcha. So this is a long time then.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
so 6 years or something of not even knowing
Just
what Fish
completely
was up to, and I didn't know anyone that liked this kind of music, and so I grabbed this like surfer kid that I knew that I surfed with. He was like a flat biller, tattoos on his neck. He was kind of like a little juvenile delinquent kind of guy. And and we go to Irvine Meadows, and I'm blown away by the scene. Like being a Deadhead when the Dead had really started to get out of control with the traveling circus,
uh-huh.
and then showing up and seeing that at Fish, it blew my mind. and not really in a happy way, you know.
Oh, okay.
Um, I there was just it was a young scene, you know. It was just super baggy. It
Baggy.
was
That's a really interesting way to describe that. I love that.
it was just very, you know, and I'm not cutting down anybody or hippies or patchwork or
Yeah.
any of that wooks or any of that stuff. But it was a it was a shock to me, and it was. I mean, I was psyched. But in the show, I'll never forget. Um, during I'd never heard "Waiting in the Velvet Sea" before.
Gotcha.
I mean, there were a bunch of songs I hadn't heard, but I'd never heard "Velvet Sea," and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Again, you
Sure.
know. And
Yeah.
if I guess I didn't know Phish that well because that's what they can do to you just throughout the course of a set, right? They can play a bluegrass tune, play a
Right.
funk tune, play, you know, a punk rock song, whatever.
A ballad.
Um,
Yeah. All the
whatever.
above. Yeah.
That's right. So anyway, and I just remember I got this feeling that there was the drugs being used just weren't, it wasn't happy. It wasn't happy drugs, and the music was felt kind of just self-indulgent as well. And
Mm.
I just remember seeing this couple, like it reminded me of the cover of the Woodstock album. If you're familiar with that, there's like a hippie couple like wrapped in
Blanket.
a Mexican blanket or
Yeah.
something, you know. And so out there on the lawn at Irvine Meadows was just this couple during Velvet Sea, and it was just kind of sad to me. And I was like, and then the kid I'm with is like, I ain't never seen this many hippies before in my life. And I was like, we were both kind of over it, and we left early.
Oh,
We
wow.
left before the encore, um, and that was the last I heard of Phish at all for
Interesting.
many years. I was watching TV when Peter Jennings cut to Phish at Big Cypress.
Uh-huh.
And I remember smiling because Heavy Things and Trey smiling. And it was like, that was a beautiful little moment in reference point.
Sure.
But I didn't see Phish again until 2017.
Wow. What an interesting you've really hit like I'm going to call it day 1, 90, 91, those are all, day 1 to me. And then you skip to 99, which
Yeah.
and it's interesting to hear because, you know, whether people want to admit it or even talk about those things, there were some dark points in the history, of this band that we all love, including like the scene, like which we were talking about. Like it start in 99, that's leading right up to like the first, breakup where there's things happening,
Hmm.
and the scene's kind of getting the dark parts of the scenes are kind of getting into the band and like kind of twisting. And then
Yeah.
what did you say? 2017 or 2014?
2017. Yeah.
Dude, that's those gaps are so wide. Like you
Very
really,
interest, really interesting.
yeah,
Like checking when I look back now, checking in with the band at these different points. And
yeah,
really, I was, you know, I just surfed every day. I did not stay up on music, current music, really.
uh-huh,
Had no idea what was going on with Phish. I did have some Phish music with me. I had that kid at the coffee shop. I think he encouraged me to get their new album at the time, which was Story of the Ghost. So I think I had Story of the Ghost, maybe, and maybe Farmhouse. And
okay,
then I was really psyched. I went to a record store and that there were live Phish releases, CDs. So I bought one of those, and the only fish I really listened to, and I would check in with them. I would get my little like recommended yearly allowance by
It's a funny
listening
way
to
to
this
put it.
one live fish. And I can't remember which one it is, but I always loved Divided Sky. And so I would, there were some times where I was like, I need to hear Divided Sky, you know?
That's the one for you?
So, well, Divided Sky is probably, I call it my second favorite fish song. Yeah, it just
Okay.
has, it's just something about it. I just
And
love that song.
is the first one Slave?
No, the first one's Harry Hood.
Harry Hood.
That's a
Oh,
whole nother,
you went,
that's
yeah.
a,
I've been following your stories. You went down like you're doing these. Would you call them listening projects?
I guess, you know, people call them deep dives
Yeah.
too.
So you've listened to every Harry Hood in
Yeah,
order,
so
right?
that's kind of like my modern claim to fame. Not in order. Not
Oh,
in
not in
order.
order. Okay, okay.
Not in order. So this actually I can segue into the Hood project by saying I hadn't seen fish in 18 years. Hadn't even didn't know about the hiatuses, about the breakup, about the comeback. I knew nothing about fish other
Gotcha.
than the Divided Sky that I'd listen to once a year, you know? So anyway, I would, on weekends, I go up into the local mountains here, go climbing by myself in the backcountry. And I remember coming back one day and seeing a Rolling Stone article in my feed or something, um, maybe a Facebook feed, and it said Fish is playing a residency at Madison Square Garden. Um, and I was like, and it's like, it had a little blue clicky. It said, watch here. I'm like, I wonder what that's about. I
Uh-huh.
mean, this is how out of it I was. I like live stream concerts. Really? That's a thing? So,
Yeah.
so anyway, I was like, Sunday's my rest day where I just like stare at the wall and drool, let my body recover and stuff.
Sure.
And uh, and so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna pull up I'm gonna watch one of these fish shows, check in, see what's going on. And so I paid for the stream and stuff, and I could not believe my eyes. I like I can't even describe the feeling really of seeing Trey aged, you
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
and the smiling and the vibe, just the amazing good vibe of this show. It was the 2723. I can't remember which night of the Baker's Dozen that was, but it blew my mind. The music, the style of jamming, the positive vibrations, the lights. I was like, I have to get some of this shit immediately. I was in a kind of a low ebb of my life, and I'll tell you what, at the set break, I bought a ticket, a plane ticket to Denver. I looked up Fish's schedule. I saw the closest, the only shows I'd be able to see were at Dick's,
Uh-huh.
happening just in a couple weeks. I bought a plane ticket and went on some like scalper site or some shit and bought a ticket to Friday Night Dick's. And I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm going solo
That's awesome.
and I'm going to go see Fish. And so that's my second origin story because I feel like it kind of, uh, not to sound cheesy, but it was almost like seeing them for the first time,
That's
and
awesome.
in a big outdoor space and by myself. And I was my sister had passed away
Oh, I'm sorry.
recently, and so I was in this kind of like fog of grief and
Sure.
depression. and I was listening to, in general for years, listening to just kind of depressing music. I realized,
Sure.
singer. I still love singer songwriter, Americana kind of music. Um, but I didn't realize until I was on the floor at Dick's dancing how much music was really like seeping into my life, negatively.
Sure.
Listening to sad music, I was like, no, I'm still happy. It's all good. And I was like, actually, no, listening to depressing music all the time is not helping. And
Music is
you
powerful.
know,
It's
that's right. That's
dark
right.
or positive, man. So yeah,
And
it's
that's right. So I showed up at Dick's, and there were tons of songs I didn't know. Again,
sure. Yeah.
I think they opened with like a Blaze On, and once again there was Smiling Trey. I was down on the field, close to the rail, just fresh off the boat, essentially.
Sure.
People are tripping like, who are you down here? And who, like, what, you haven't seen Phish? And whatever. um and there was a Harry Hood that night,
Oh, there you
um
go.
at the eh, maybe as a closer. I can't remember. No, because they I think they went into a cavern or something, but and I was like, I forgot that Harry Hood was one of my very first favorite songs.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember being in Vermont and seeing the Hood milk commercial.
Sure.
Um, Opening up the fridge, like some guy goes downstairs like for a midnight snack, and he's like gonna pull get a soda or something, and he opens up the fridge, and there's Harry. You know,
Get
he's like,
some milk.
"Hey, you can feel good about Hood," and so I knew the whole Hood story.
Sure.
Loved Harry Hood. When I got back to Arizona after that Dick's weekend, first of all, I watched a Baker's Dozen every week until the end. So I think I watched like four of them just on Sundays.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the whole world of streaming and stuff was new to me. So I was like, I knew about the Internet Archive, or archive.org, from Grateful Dead,
Right.
um, sourcing Grateful Dead shows. But I was like, how do I even listen to Phish? And so I found Re-Listen
Yeah.
and some other stuff. Um, and I was like, I started listening to Harry Hood in the morning. I realized it was like the best morning song ever for me.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, it kind of like wakes, it's like one of those alarm tones that like starts out slow, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
for people who can't get, like, I can't wake up to Tweezer.
Just right off the rip.
Right?
Yeah.
Uh, so eh, somewhere along the line, I was like, wow, there are 370 of these things, and I can actually. So I was like, at some point, I was like, I guess I'm doing this. Like, I've listened to a bunch, and why not
Did you
listen
have
to them
any
all?
so since you didn't go in order, did you have any times where you like overlapped or you're like, "Oh, I've already listened to this one. I need to find a new
There
one."
are ones I went back to.
Okay, gotcha.
Absolutely. Like, there were days where I was like, I don't really want to listen to a shitty audience recording right now. I want to listen to that one again, or
I need this
whatever.
one. Sure.
And there were a fair amount like on Apple Music and Spotify and stuff too.
Sure.
So, um, and so I gravitated towards soundboards, and I used the jam chart on phish.net,
Yeah.
to kind of get ideas of where to go next and stuff. And then I
Mhm.
just was like, okay, I'm going to have to write this shit down. And if I'm going to do this, I got to do it.
Yeah.
And I didn't document, rate, do any of that stuff. But I got to a point where I went and I had checked every single one of them off. I was like, and it got
That's really
hard,
cool.
and it was once a day, and it took over a year,
Sure.
and I didn't miss a day. And it became this, it was more of uh, a practice, if you will. It's more like bringing intention. This is kind of maybe a mindfulness
Sure.
thing of intention, like
Yeah.
ritual and intention. And when it got hard, um, like I don't feel like doing this today, getting myself to do it was a good thing. And I just realized that Harry Hood allowed me to, I mean, come on, the only lyrics of the song are thank you and you can feel good,
Yeah.
right? And um, I found myself, it changed my life.
That's awesome.
It allowed me to step out into my day just kind of filled with gratitude every single day. And I like, you know, people can say, "Oh, you're just OCD or you're this or that or the other," but um, there's a Buddhist teacher, and there's a saying that everyone loves something, even if it's just tortillas. Right? You're kind of like,
That's a Buddhist
huh,
saying?
that is, yeah. Um, and so it doesn't really matter
Yeah.
what it is that you're doing. It doesn't matter how you found it, as long as the only rule is it begins, you know?
I love that.
And so Harry Hood kind of changed my life. And after that first show back, which is a banger, it's considered one of the shows of the year, and rivals those Baker's Dozen shows in a lot of people's minds. 9-1-17 has this like all-timer Carini, and I'm like, it was a crazy show, and it was wild to be back fresh,
Yeah.
cleared head, not high at all or anything like that. And
Yeah.
so phish became then just a kind of a huge stepping stone for me on a grief journey. And I think maybe people who are like addicts or something, alcoholic anonymous people, they lean on things, whether it's cigarettes or their meetings or whatever,
Sure. Yeah.
because it helps, right?
Yep.
And phish helped me. And that's, it's a slippery slope because helping you turns into like going into debt out of FOMO to, go places and
Yeah.
stuff. But I've been solidly back on the bus, since Dick's 17, and
Right on.
see every show I possibly can. So
That's awesome. And to this date, do you know how many shows that you've seen?
they're, well, judging by the fact that I found that ticket stub for Irvine,
Mm-hmm.
and well, the ticket stub I found for Irvine, I looked up the show. I'm like, I wasn't at this show, but I
But you
remember
have the
seeing a
stub.
show at Irvine. Like, I've never been a heavy drug user in my life or anything. So there aren't like these gaps of like, I was in a bad place for years or anything like that.
Sure.
I have, and there are some shows that I think have probably slipped through the cracks, but I've only seen somewhere around 40 something shows, I
Cool.
think.
Yeah.
And the bulk of those have come since 2017. So I am like, I'm kind of like fucking Baby Yoda or something, you know? I'm
Dude,
a 3.0. I'm a 3.0 with like uh I'm a 3.0 noob with 1.0 DNA or
no,
something,
see,
you
and
know?
that's what's so bizarre. And that's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast is because everyone's story and journey with this band is so different. Because like, and this is what's just me assuming, I was like, okay, I assume this guy's been into the band for a while. He's probably seen, a million shows and like,
Hundreds of
yeah.
shows, yeah.
And it's so bizarre because like, you were there day one. Like you were getting weed at the same spot that Fishman was, like on riding up on his bicycle. And then like your life journey takes you in this different path, to where and I don't want to say a lot because that would mean I'm assuming other people's stories from that time frame. But like a lot of those people are, day one and then like hitting like all the shows, following, doing everything, and then you're hitting them, checking in like every 5 to 10 years, and then
Yeah.
back on the boat, like you said. And it's really cool, man. That's a cool story. I
Yeah.
really dig it.
Thing, people are like, what were you thinking? You missed the best years and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? Life happens.
Yeah, it's not like you missed out like on Apple stock or something. Like the band is the band is still playing.
Class.
Like
That's right. And I think my appreciation, like I don't fucking hate Farmhouse
sure.
or I or bouncing around the room. That's another thing. Like when I came back to Phish and I realized there are people that hate or that are like roll their eyes with bouncing around the room. I'm like, that song, everybody loved that song.
Hmm.
A lot of people were turned on to Phish because of that song, and people hate it. Are you kidding me? Like,
And it's so
um,
funny because you said something earlier that like kind of it's something that happened back then and it's still happening now. Like you were talking about like whenever Hoist came out, and you guys were like, "Oh, it's over." Like they sold out, It's like and and now like nowadays like whenever they're putting out this new music and it's all like vibrating with love and like the
right,
ocean and all this
right.
stuff and everybody's like I don't want to say everybody, but some people are like rolling their eyes and it's like, can we get off this like love and light train shit, But it's
It's
been happening since the early days. Like
That's right.
it's
That's right.
it's it's
It's
it's a full circle thing, man.
you're absolutely right. It's kind of funny. So I think I'd like to think that I'm far from jaded. I love everything they do because it's them doing it, you know?
Yep.
And for me, you know, like I I'm not, I'm not 21 anymore, and neither is Trey,
Right.
you know? We both lost our sisters, you know? We um you grow.
Yep.
And to feel like to come back to Fish in 2017, it was like, wow, I grew and so did they. And I wouldn't want it any other way,
Yeah.
and I don't care if it's dad rock. I mean, I'm not a dad, but I can relate more than I can relate to like the foam getting thicker and purple paste and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm not that guy anymore. I
Yeah.
still love everything about Fish, but yeah, so I'm um not shy or ashamed to say that I haven't seen that
No, you
many
shouldn't be.
shows or whatever. I see people, obviously there's bragging and shaming and stuff.
Sure.
Not so much shaming, but and
It's
you
like the
know,
badge of honor type thing of like, oh, I've been doing this more than you, man. Like,
that's right.
yeah.
That's right.
But some
Um,
people, it some people take it way more serious than they should, and then other people that that you talk to, it's like, oh yeah, I've seen 150 shows, and they're super cool about it, and it's just like, I remember on like the third episode, I think this was of this podcast, I was talking to my buddy Dave, and he's kind of been around since the early days too. I want to, if I can remember right, I think his first show was in like '93 or '94.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like geeking out and was like, "Oh man, that's so cool! I wish I could have seen Phish then." And he was like, "Look, that doesn't make me better than you." He was like, "I was just born earlier than you, and like was
Yeah,
able to see them in this like really cool time." He's like, "That doesn't mean anything." And I was like, "Yeah, no, you're right." It's like it
that's right.
doesn't matter how many shows you've seen or anything like that. It's just we all love the same band and the music. That's what
That's
it's
right.
about.
And I've, just DMing with people through having this site or this new Instagram page has been really interesting for me, much like you, just connecting with people and tripping
Yeah.
out on people and stuff. And, you know, this one guy, a memer guy, is like, oh man, he's like kind of ashamed to say that his first show was in 2019 or whatever. And
Why?
I'm like, why? I go, what show was it? He goes, 12/30/19. I'm like, okay, so the MSG Tweezer was your first show?
You should be happy about that.
I'm like, bro, the golden age is now.
Yeah.
No matter what we think about the legendary shows of 97 or whatever,
Yeah.
the time is now.
And they've been playing since 2009. They've been playing to this point as long as 3.0 is as long, if not longer than 1.0.
That's right.
And they're going to surpass it. I mean, within this year. So it's
That's
like,
right.
it's,
That's right. And I'll tell you what, the thing when Blaze On started up at my first show back, I was blown away by how good the band sounded, but how good the sound was. I
yeah,
was like, holy shit, this is crystal clear.
dialed
I can
in.
hear every instrument. I can hear the conversation perfectly. This is an amazing thing. And so the golden age, I mean, the time is now. I would
Yeah.
never lament not being able to see Phish earlier. And
Yeah.
like I got a DM from this guy last night, and he was like, "I'm seeing Phish at the Garden for the first time. I only saw him for the first time over the summer, and this is my first indoor Phish and all this stuff." And I'm like, oh man, the beginner mind in
Yeah.
me is just like drooling for this kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you're in for a treat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, Fish Crowd is, we talk shit online and all this
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
but if
You
you
have
have a
to.
shirt that if you have a shirt that says it's my first show,
Oh, yeah.
eh,
You're having a good time.
people are so happy for you.
Yeah.
And that's where the gatekeeping and vibing stops. It's like,
Yeah.
we are happy. It's beginning for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Doesn't matter when, but it's yeah. Yeah, don't be ashamed of when your first show was. Still
That's right.
3.0. Um yeah.
That's right.
It's all just all the accolades, if you will, and like the show count and I was at this, I saw this tweezer or this and that. That's all just add-ons. Those are like the spices, for the dish.
Yeah.
It's the actual meat is like the love for the band and like getting to meet people and finding your Phish crew and your Phish family and like see it's all the other stuff. It's fun to talk about, nerd out about, but doesn't really mean anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Just like I mean, the show is a document. It's preserved as a document, but it can never be recreated. It's
Oh,
a
no. Yeah.
it's
It's a
an
one of one.
it's an ethereal, like, if you're familiar with, there's this artist named Andy Goldsworthy. Do you know who he is?
I don't.
He's a guy, he does what's known as ethereal art. So he goes out in nature and
Okay.
creates art in nature with leaves, with rocks, with all kinds of stuff,
Oh,
and it
cool.
doesn't last.
Yeah.
There's some amazing movies about this guy, but just the Phish to me is and jams are like this ethereal art, It's there, and it can be the most beautiful, impactful, special thing of your life. And then it's gone, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that's what keeps us coming back for more, for hundreds of shows or whatever.
Yeah, because you never know what you're gonna get.
You,
And
you,
that's what I think that's the key part, for people that are really there for the music and for the band. You can go there and come away with a standard or a shitty show, where it's like, oh, okay, they didn't play a 25-minute tweezer, or they didn't do any gimmicks, and it was just really standard rock and roll. Or you can go in there and you can get a 4-song second set, and they bring out Abe Vigoda, like
that's
all this
right.
stuff, like, and
That's right.
that's what we're betting on. It's like a lottery ticket. You don't know, like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna get, but it's gonna be fucking awesome.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. And not having expectations.
that's the big part.
That's a challenge and a
It is.
practice too, because there's so much anticipation. We spend a lot of money and time and travel and put so much into getting there.
Right.
And then so the skill of being able to let go and just take it for what it is, that can be hard
It can.
for anybody. We want it to be a good show. We want it's like if it's a fabled venue or something,
Mhm.
especially, you're like, oh,
Oh, it's
they're
gonna be
gonna
good.
tear the roof off this place. And then it ends up being a whatever show or whatever,
Yeah. But
Um,
that's what makes it, because if every time they were at MPP or Dick's or whatever, Hampton Coliseum, you knew that it was going to be fucking awesome, then it's people would only go to those, so
right.
by default there have to be some quote unquote shitty shows in these like iconic places for it to even
That's right.
shake
That's
out.
that's right.
I want to ask, so knowing now that you're fully after your whole fish journey, you're fully back in, with this tour. You seen any shows? What's your summer tour looking like?
So summer tour. So I did almost all of fall tour.
Okay,
Um,
wow.
so I kind of like last year was going to be my year, and
Uh-huh.
then had tickets for New Year's and the cancellation. Um,
So you're hitting Madison
so
Square Garden.
so I'm hitting Madison Square Garden and Dick's only.
I will
Um,
see you at Dick's, my man.
all right. So yeah, I haven't missed Dick's since I've been back, and no West Coast dates. So there's the potential for like a surgical strike at some point.
Yeah.
They're playing on my birthday in South Carolina, I think, or
Oh, when's your
something,
birthday?
and in June,
Okay,
beginning of
cool.
June. So that, we'll see. We'll see if how I can control my trigger finger when the FOMO really starts hitting.
Yeah.
But
Dude, and seeing
um,
fish on your birthday is dope. I'm a September birthday, and so my birthday always falls on the Dick's Run. So that
nice.
that that weekend, and so one year since I've been going to Dick's, it fell where the Sunday show was
Oh
actually
wow,
on my
nice.
birthday, and it was the one where they did like the thank you set at
Oh
the end.
wow,
Yeah, and so I
yeah.
was like, "This is the best birthday present ever!" Like this.
Oh God, and what a show too,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, it was really cool. But Hefe, like this has been one of my favorite episodes. I love your energy, I love your vibe, I love your story.
Thank.
I'm stoked to hear that you're gonna be at Dick's because I'm gonna be there, and I definitely want to meet up
Oh,
and
for sure, yeah.
have a drink in the lot, or cheers with the grilled cheese or something, whatever whatever you're into, man. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. And once again, I love your I keep wanting to call it a meme page. I love your Instagram page. You
Thank
enjoy my
you.
data. I think it's a really cool and fresh take, and everything's really clean. I like that. It's like visually
Yeah,
like very
cool.
appealing.
Cool.
But yeah, and who's this guy? Who's this guy
Oh god, she's whining. This is
or this girl? Oh, hi.
Look at she looks like she looks like a little stray off the street.
What's your name?
Her name's Gingy.
Gingy. Hi, Gingy.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna
She's
steal the show now, Gingy. Throw her back on the bed.
Yeah, Clay, it was great, man. Thanks a lot for reaching out and stuff.
Yeah,
And
no, thanks for taking the time.
great to meet another phish fan, and
Always, yeah.
fun to talk.
And
And we both have brick. We both have like I
Yeah.
noticed we both have like this brick
yeah.
back. You can tell I'm not like a Zoom person because there's like my bed. I'm like, I should probably make my bed for Clay.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good. Oh, and I'll show you since you're into biking. That's where I keep my bikes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I'm actually this is gonna be the last episode with this background. Because I'm in my apartment right now. And it's got the one brick wall and then everything else is but either way, I'm moving to a house next weekend. So on the next episode, saying goodbye to the brick, I'll try to have like a cool background and setup and everything. But once again, it was great to meet you. You don't have to
Clay.
say your number or anything on here, but I want to get your number, and so we're not just like talking through Instagram and stuff. And
Great.
I want to meet up at Dick's, and we'll get a photo for the gram.
Awesome.
And we'll
down.
see some fish together, man. Thanks again for taking the time. This was a really fun episode.
Awesome. It was for me too. Thanks, Clay.
All right, cool. Oh yeah, the heart. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, little heart, little.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks again. And for everyone that's listening, if you're still hanging around, if you want to be on a future episode, shoot me a DM on any of the socials, or shoot me an email, sttf.weareeverywhere@gmail.com. And I will see you at Dick's.
Right on, Clay. Take care, bro.
Later, man.